working to connect a region of over 600 mil bridges between our lands.
Good afternoon, welcome to ASEAN in Focus. This is Kaloy Tabunda from the New Era University, ASEAN Studies Center and Center for International Linkages. This afternoon we're going to talk about a very important issue, and that is about the peace and order situation in Mindanao. And to help us discuss these different issues is no other than a very good friend here, who is my colleague from the Philippine Council for Foreign Relations, and also the former Deputy Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines and the Executive Director of the then Visiting Forces Agreement Office of the Department of Foreign Affairs, General Edelberto Adan. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Kaloy. Good afternoon.
Okay,
Glad to be here.
Maraming salamat sa pagpapaunlad nyo. Anyway, achieving peace and prosperity in the whole of Mindanao has always been an important concern of every Philippine administration. And security in Mindanao has been connected to a large extent to the peace in the whole Philippine nation. And of course, when you're talking of peace in the Philippine nation, you're also talking of overall peace and order in Southeast Asia. Okay, so first off, sir, the Philippine Council for Foreign Relations, I remember we took a position against the Bangsamoro Basic Law in 2015.
That's right, yes.
Okay. And what is your position now in the recently passed Bangsamoro Organic?
You know, going back, in 2015, the concern of the PCFR, as well as the other organizations where I belong, the Association of General Flag Officers, or
you were also the chair of the Association of Flag
and of course,
Officers.
PhilConsa, the Philippine Constitution Association. We want to make sure that the provisions of the Bangsamoro law that will come out will adhere to the Constitution.
Okay.
And we found so many provisions there that are questionable, no?
Can you name some of them?
Well, one of them is creating a separate police force under the leadership of the would-be Prime Minister, creating their own armed forces. So, and many words that were questionable, like their asymmetrical relationship with the central government, and the words like self-determination, which in international law, according to the experts, would really point to their desire to be independent.
Yeah, secession from
secession.
The
so these were the things that we were, these were the red flags. And so that was our position in 2015. So now that the Bangsamoro Organic Law had been signed by the President in July 26, or last July 26, we observed that many of these provisions that were objectionable, because they impinge on the Constitution, have been deleted.
Okay.
And to the credit of the bicameral bodies of Congress, they have been refined. So as the MILF itself said, their leadership, sabi nila, this is like 99% compliant na.
Yes.
And we're glad to hear that.
Yeah. Can you tell our audience, how did PCFR go about this? I mean, of course, many of you actually were former senior government officials. So what was the process involved in crafting this Bangsamoro Organic Law? With your participation, how did you do it?
Well,
how did you lobby?
So there were committees in both houses of Congress that were crafting these laws, and we were invited.
Okay.
These committees, both the lower house and the Senate, invited PCFR as well as AGFO to attend the public hearings.
Okay.
And that is how we were able to articulate our positions. And together with other groups, including Moro groups, we found out we were not alone in our position.
Yes.
Because there were those who were saying that to unite all of the Moro groups under one organization, one particular leadership group, the MILF, is not acceptable to some of these groups, no? Like the southwestern part of Mindanao. And so this issue is still there, and we hope that even after the passage of the BOL, this will be resolved in due time through the plebiscite, which is provided by law. Then we will see if these various factions will be able to act as one and be all united under the so-called Bangsamoro.
Okay, give me your honest take on this. Do you think the Bangsamoro Organic Law about peace in Mindanao? I mean, we have the ARMN before, and of course we know what happened, and we have this BOL now. Do you think this will...
You know, the peace process started more than 15 years ago. No? The MNLF, for example, it led to the final peace agreement in 1996. But then there are always factions there who do not agree with what has been agreed upon with the government. And so there's a breakaway group.
Yeah, the MILF now.
Well, 1977, the MILF broke away. And now, when the peace agreement was about to be concluded, there's another group, the BIFF, no? that broke away. And the MILF is now saying the BIFF, or the Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters, are not under our control. They're a rogue group, they're a breakaway group. So where does that leave the government? You know? We want to negotiate peace with a group that controls, that has the power.
So you had that during the MNLF, that's why we have ARMM.
Yes.
But the MILF did not agree with that, so we have the BOL now.
Yes.
And now we have this BIFF now.
Another
and we're
group.
not even sure that the MNLF really agrees with the BOL.
Yes.
Okay,
so there are various groups.
So what's the chance for peace, and what should we do?
We will see the government is exerting efforts through the information campaign, using media, with the support of international groups, experts from different countries, all providing their experiences, their good practices learned from various peace processes abroad in different countries. We hope they'll be able to unite.
But can they unite? Obviously, it appears that there's a tribal divide among our Muslim brothers.
Yes, you know,
so
traditionally, the Sultanate of Sulu has been a co-equal, is a separate, distinct Sultanate from the Sultanate of Maguindanao.
So Sultanate of Sulu, you're talking here, of course, Sulu, Tawi-Tawi,
yes,
Basilan,
the so-called
Zamboanga
Sambasulta group.
Okay.
Sambasulta means Zamboanga, Sulu, Basilan, Tawi-Tawi.
This is basically the Taos area.
And I remember about 2 months ago, about 2,500 leaders of Samba Sultan met in Zamboanga City and concluded that they would not want to join the so-called Bangsamoro. Yes. So we hope in the plebiscite that will happen 2 months from now, this will be resolved. And they're now in the process of uniting.
And then you saw the other Sultanate, the
Maguindanao, which is basically where the MILF comes from, Central Mindanao yan.
And these areas are supposed to be covered with the new Bangsamoro. And
all
of these diverse groups, we're supposed to be uniting all of them, but they don't want to be united. So what's the chance for peace, and how do we address this now? So do you think the BOL does not really address this concern?
We have to take note that the autonomous region for Muslim Mindanao, ARMM, had already been created. It's existing. It has got powers, and with this setup, both the Central Mindanaoans and the southwestern Moros, the so-called Sambas from the so-called Sambat-Sulta group, have been working together, But now it is placing the leadership of the new entity called Bangsamoro in the hands of one group.
Yes, the MILF.
Yes, and So there's a group in Holo, led by some politicians there, who would rather join Region 9 no, of our local government. Sabi nila, we want to get away from ARMM, but instead rejoin Region 9. So these things have to be addressed. Yeah.
But these things have been there for decades, and apparently this have not been addressed effectively by all of this ARM and BOL. So what's your honest take on this?
What I heard from Malacanang is that it's possible, no, to recognize two different groups. But that is not what is in the law now. No? We'll see how it is developed. How there's a law already.
Pero di ba, magulo naman yun. So, they recognize that there are two different groups. Pero bakit, why did we even try to combine them under one structure?
Well, in the structure kasi of the Bangsamoro, there will be 80 parliamentarians. So there will be power sharing, no?
Okay.
How they configure that, how many will be given to this group, how many positions this group. It's up for them to decide. Maybe that's the how power will be shared, and if it's acceptable, no?
So parang we're again embarking on a new experiment, something like that.
It is an experiment.
Okay.
But from the viewpoint of security, no? One of our concerns from the security sector is what happens to the weapons of war.
Okay.
Because remember, the MILF is a rebel group. It started as a rebel group. It is maintaining an army of its own, the so-called BIAF, or Bangsamoro Islamic Armed Forces, and they're armed.
Yes.
They claim, some say they're 10,000, some say they're 30,000. So, what happens now? If there is an agreement already, and it is provided that there will be normalization, meaning their forces will be decommissioned, demobilized. So, what happens to those firearms?
Yes.
Will the government take
Confiscate.
over these firearms? Will they be turned over to government and put beyond use, which is provided by law? No. These are the things that will have to be traced up, because how do you account for these firearms? And will they surrender it?
Okay, sige. Mapag-uusapan na yan. The issues of firearms, disarmament actually.
Disarmament, decommissioning and disarmament.
Decommissioning and disarmament when ASEAN in Focus returns.
Pero yung El Nino na sinasabi, hilong-hilo na ako sa kanya.
Ano po bang relevance ng mga dam? Yung mga napapanood daw sa Hollywood, yung mga sumasabog na dam.
Gong, maraming salamat. Malaking tulong ito mula sa Ilocos hanggang sa NCR, Marikina, Tucumán.
First time nyo bang gamitin yung mga modular tents na yun?
Pet News, Linggo, alas 4 hanggang alas 5 ng hapon. Landmarks, Linggo, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi.
Okay, welcome back to our interview with General Edelberto Adan. Very interesting yung pinag-uusapan natin. So, before we took a break, we talked about the issues of disarmament, decommissioning. Is this possible under the BO?
Well, you know, the normalization annex of the comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro, signed in 2014, provides for actually four phases for the so-called normalization. This refers to the disarmament, decommissioning of their forces, Sa second phase actually provides that 30% of firearms will be turned over to an international body, and then second phase or third phase would be 35%.
This started in 2014.
No, the decommissioning will start upon ratification of the agreement, which has not yet been done, because there will be a plebiscite first to ratify the agreement. It has not yet started.
So do you think that's possible?
Well, okay. Let's go to the ground.
Okay.
First problem: how many firearms are we talking about? Who will determine the accuracy of figures submitted? If the MILF says we have 10,000, will the government take that? What if it is more than 10,000? What if it's 30,000? And who will verify?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Number two, I've heard that there are those who are claiming these firearms are personal or on loan or borrowed from political leaders, from other warlords.
So issue pa lang yan, number of firearms, issue na, and ownership.
But again, it will be the government forces, the police, the AFP, who will be in the front line in enforcing this agreement.
And do you think it is possible given the culture there?
It's possible if there's a will and if resources are provided, because the government has to assert itself, the rule of law. And, possession of firearms is covered by laws of the Philippines. So if you are not authorized to maintain an armed group, private armies are illegal.
Pero under the ARMM before, was there a provision for disarmament when the comprehensive peace agreement was signed?
Yun ang problema. Nagkaroon ng agreement with the MNLF, hindi sinama yung disarmament.
Pero under this present setup, meron na.
Oh, but it's not in the law. I'd like to point this out.
Okay.
No? Ideally, it should have been in the law, the Bangsamoro law, that provides for the gradual phase out of arms. However, it was not placed there. It's in the mother document called the Comprehensive Agreement, which is an executive agreement, not a law. So again, from the security sector where I come from, we have been questioning that. Why not place it into the law so there will be, something to enforce?
Bakit kaya hindi na isama?
Well, it's very contentious because they say, from the MILF side, from the Moro side, they say, we have to maintain some firearms because we have many enemies. We have so-called Rido, clan feuds, so we have to maintain our firearms. That's one side, no? And I think that's also, we also have to accept that, no? There's some intricacies,
Pero
no?
pag sinabing some, we're talking how much,
But then,
how many
there's
some?
the law, and the law applies to everyone. The law on firearms, you got to be licensed, you got to be qualified, and there's no authorized armed forces except the AFP and the PNP in this country.
So do you think this will ever be achieved?
After this law has been ratified, accepted, all else will be illegal. No, if it is not accordance with the law.
So what's your honest take? Will this succeed? I mean, the disarmament and the commissioning, given the culture?
Well, this time we'll have to rely on the goodwill of the leadership of the MILF. How they will impose their will on their followers. So the question is, do they have control? Can they control the lower echelons? This is how we will see them. It's confidence, no? The government gave so much in the Bangsamoro law, the powers, the autonomy. In return, what do we get?
How much can they give in return? Okay, how did they do it in other countries? The issue of disarmament.
Well, in the Irish Republican Army case, for example, negotiations with the UK, there was a set time limit, no? A fixed time limit, say 2 years, no? By that time, all firearms should have been turned over, and all forces should have been decommissioned. In other words, wala nang mag-uniforme, wala nang battalion yan, wala nang company. There's no such thing as you're maintaining your own armed force. There's none. And in other countries, in Aceh, in East Timor, ganun din. Even with the FARC in Colombia, there are provisions for disarmament in the law. in the agreement.
Pero sa atin, wala pala.
Wala sa law, nandun sa CAB.
Sa mandan document.
So, okay lang siguro yun, provided the MILF leadership can impose their will and say to their followers, you better disarm now, you better decommission. I hope that happens. It's a matter of control, not their forces.
What's your feeling?
We'll see what the leadership can do.
Okay, so all in all, are you, so at least some of the suggestions of the PCFR have been accepted, were incorporated in the, in the final
There's
BOL.
no, for example, they initially in the draft BBL, as it was called then, they wanted to have their own police force,
so wala na
Bangsamoro
yun.
Regional Police Force,
Okay.
to be under the control, supervision of the chief minister. That was not that wasn't approved in the BICAM. They wanted their own Bangsamoro Armed Forces Command.
Yes, yes.
Not only that, they wanted an auxiliary command composed of women, of youth, to support the Armed Forces Command. That did not pass the BICAM.
Oh, kasi parang ano na eh, ano ba to? War state.
Yun nga, no? Well, yun ang nakita ng ating, at hindi na.
Pero generally, are you confident that finally peace will be achieved?
We want to make it
You've
work.
been there, you were chief of staff there
Yeah.
at the Southern Luzon Command. So, what do you think?
It's already, in our 1987 Constitution, it's already been provided that they will be given autonomy. So, the ARMM was created. So, our position sa PCFR and the other organizations, we're not against the law, no? We're not against the Bangsamoro law, as long as it complies with the Constitution. Basically, we want an improved ARMM, because it's already what is authorized by the Constitution. We cannot deviate from that. So basically, this is what happened. I think by calling it the Bangsamoro Organic Law, it's an enhanced ARMM law.
So, pang mga small steps to success.
Yes, yes.
And hopefully, in the end, are you positive that...
Yes, we'd like to.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, maraming salamat, General Adan. And we will talk more about the different issues, the peace issues in Mindanao. Catch this when ASEAN in Focus Week and next Saturday shows. Okay? And this is all for now. I'm Kaloy Tabunda.